Okay. You should. Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Denis Moskowitz, and I have a logographic online called Rikchik. It's a sign language used by these creatures. Next slide. Rikchik is an alien creature with a spherical body, a single large eye, and 49 tentacles, 7 of which are used for speaking. They're shorter and lighter. You can see a scale here. They're about like 7 feet high. But most of that is tentacles, so they can crouch, etc. This is the native scale of 1 reach divided into 7 blades. They're very 7-based. I've been drawing Rikchiks for about 20 years or so. Only started thinking about the language in around 1995, and it really didn't take its current form until 1997. I've been working on it on and off since then. It actually, next slide. Okay. Rikchik actually is, sorry Skylar, it's a linear language. It is, in practice, it's written only, since I and pretty much anyone else I know of don't actually have the tentacles needed to speak it directly. This, as it happens, is my Rikchik version of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights for the Omni-Law site. It comes out as something like, all Rikchiks are born leaderless and similar to each other in capacity for happiness and abilities. Those Rikchiks can think and choose between happiness and sadness. Those Rikchiks shall act in a sibling-ish way to all Rikchiks, please. In some ways, it's a good point to go through a quick orientation to the language. That's what I have time for. Next slide. This is the basic Rikchik word with the 4 parts of it in different colors just for learning purposes. The rest of the talk will have the same coloration. A Rikchik word is broken into 4 pieces. The central morpheme, which is in black here, gives the basic idea, the basic meaning. And then we've got the 3 outer 1-tentacle diacritics. The aspect on the left, the relation on top, and the collector on the right. Each of these has an English name or abbreviation, so for ASCII purposes or just generally for being able to deal with it if you're not Rikchik, there's an ASCII form that I wanted to do my best to provide throughout the rest of it as well. Okay, next slide. So this is some examples of some of the morphemes. They are more or less logographic. Some of them are clearly depictions of something. Some of them are obscure depictions of something. For instance, above is a diagram of a flying creature in their biosphere. Some of them are abstract or seem abstract, though often when something I think is abstract ends up getting justified later. None of these are too abstract, actually. But I know there are 117 morphemes currently. I expect that to grow, but as David said, you can't have enough morphemes for the entire language, so we have to do other things. Next slide. So there are 7 possible aspects for any particular morpheme, and these give sub-meanings of a word. For instance, you can see that the animate form of Rikchik means a Rikchik. The inanimate form is a body. Then the modifier form is green. So it's not necessarily that they are nouns and adjectives. For instance, if you want to talk about greenness, you would use Rikchik M. Likewise, you can see there's many, many different meanings for home. The name modifier is used for names and compound words, so we'll not really get into that here, but ask me about it later if you're interested, or see the website. Okay, next slide. So this is the right side part is the collector, which describes how many other words this word will collect. It's this is the diagram of the Rikchik sentence, which is indeed non-linear, but it basically serves as a sentence diagram. What we have here is this first word, home, is, sorry. So these first two words, home and sun, don't have any collections. This beach actually collects sun, so it's describing a sunny beach. Me here is doesn't collect anything, and then move collects all three of these other dangling pieces. So I say I go from home to the sunny beach. Next slide. So then most of the kind of grammatical heavy lifting is done by the relation, this what we're putting in blue here. Basically serving as case or part of speech, sort of. This is my equivalent of the Esperanto Vierokaptas Fishon examples you may have seen. The first one we've got, the insect is the agent of the sentence, the flower is the patient, and then mouth ends the sentence. So an insect eats a flower. Changing the flower to it includes from patient is an insect eating in a flower, it's just location. And then switching agent to patient means the flower is an insect, kind of a Venus flytrap sort of situation. So you put all those together. Next slide. The more complicated sentence. This is humans. Sorry, you kind of break out from the middle. I am speaking. Humans watch that speaking, and because of that watching, I'm happy, which is to say, thank you for listening to this presentation. Next slide. And it's a kind of a short presentation. I have a web page, and there is a live journal community where a few people who are interested in Rikchik will discuss it. Please, you're welcome. And then I have a personal journal, which is often in Rikchik. I'm the main source of new Rikchik sentences. And that's it. Any questions? Yes.
I have a question for your journal,
yes.
Which you write in Rikchik.
Yes.
What do you use to do that from a technological standpoint?
I have with help from my brother, who is also interested in manning the video computer back there, have put together a technical system where I'm using, I have a way to generate images of the various pieces of Rikchik, the morphemes, etc. And then there is a program that will actually assemble those into words and sentences. And then I have basically a typewriter system that allows me to fill in the ASCII form, and it will create the diagrams and create the word forms. And I'll be happy to go into more detail on that, but probably not in this large group. So find me later and ask about that.
Just a quick question about that, though. So for LiveJournal, then you put that into a chip? And then
Yeah, I basically link directly to my image creation CGI script.
I got you.
So, surely someone else has questions. I wasn't that clear. Yes.
Could you go back to the slide, the last slide?
Yes.
Yeah. When you look at a construction like that, do you see it only as like moving from one point to the next, or also can you look at it as a whole gestalt and get a meaning as the gestalt?
Well, I mean, I consider this to be basically a sentence diagram. It's basically our way of doing the parsing that the Rikchik brain would just do naturally. The Rikchik would just see these in order, or just see these tentacle shapes made in order, and naturally parse it into a readable sentence structure, or sensible sentence structure. There's been some discussion about the meanings of various sentence shapes on Rikchik Talcum, the live journal community, about whether a similar sentence, if you have this very same sentence but basically mirror reverse it, put some of the words in the other order, whether a Rikchik could notice a similarity or whether one would have a different connotation. And so there's been some discussion of that. No conclusions have been reached.
Yeah, I just have one follow-up.
Yes, sure.
Is Rikchik is spoken with tentacles in
Yes.
signing, right? So can you use, like, how many tentacles can you use at once, and can you make more than one sign at once?
Generally, there's there are 7 tentacles that are optimized for speaking in the same way that we have a mouth that is optimized for talking. We've been doing it long enough that we could, we have many things we can make noise with, but the mouth is optimized. It's certainly theoretically possible that a Rikchik could use other tentacles to make shapes, and I imagine that's, I don't know, a public speaking skill if you want to make larger words. I wouldn't expect that to be necessarily a widespread ability. Speaking in multiple directions at once, saying different things, I would expect that to be beyond most. Yes.
I may have asked you this before, but I don't remember the answer. How much tentacle motion and transition is hidden in the writing system as you imagine a fluid? I mean, sign language is a little different than a
Yes.
sequence of signs.
Right.
To what extent is that true?
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, my current interpretation is that Rikchiks make a sign, just leave it there for long enough so it registers, and move to the next sign, and there's not actually necessarily a actual gestural component.
And they don't include motion?
I don't, as I currently understand the language, they don't include motion, but I'm not ruling it out. Yes.
Just a simple clarification. You had a slide, you were saying that the parts in blue were modifiers. I can't really tell dark blue from black.
Oh, sorry.
Using that, what are modifiers?
Yeah, the top tentacle in each of these is the relation. So it indicates that this, for instance, is the agent, and this is a source. They're similar.
Okay.
Anything else? I have 1 minute left for someone
I
else.
got a question over here.
Over where?
Over, about from the south side. From
Bradford White.
Yes.
I was
Hands
just-
high.
I was just wondering, with American Sign Language, for example, with that,
Mhm.
speed tends to be incredibly quick.
Yes.
Somebody who's not accustomed to sign language would never be able to tell one sign from the next.
Right.
Would you say that Rikchik would be similar in spoken? It would be that fast?
I would expect it to be. I don't know how. I mean, there's questions about like muscles and tentacle motion and stuff in there, but I would expect that if they would, having used this language for however long, millennia, that they would get very good and very fast at both speaking and watching it, signing and watching it. We're out of time. All right then.